Doug Rushkoff, welcome back to the show. Congratulations on this new book.
Thanks. It's great to be here. I've actually been here the last 4 books. This will be the 5th book. This is the first show I've appeared on when the book comes out.
Yes, I didn't even know that, but I'm honored and proud. So you make the connection in a lot of this book between the small and the big. Is this relevant to the economy?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's funny. It is the economy. Is really the economy that we live in, as I understand it, was really about neutralizing the small and encouraging the big. So that if you are small, you basically have to work for the big, or outsource your investment to the big, your savings to the big, your future to the big. And now that we're in a financial crisis, really the collapse of the big, we're in the too big to fail era, where we can't even imagine, even a guy as smart as Obama can't even imagine how the economy could work without rescuing these big entities.
We had the chairman of Citigroup, Richard Parsons, on the show the other week, and I asked him, is one of the lessons of all of this horror that no company, no bank, or any company should be allowed to grow too big to fail? And he said, no, that can't be one of the lessons. In order to stay an economic leader in the world, we have to have very large, complex financial institutions. So I was wondering how Douglas Rushkoff reacts to that.
I don't think very large financial institutions that are complex should be illegal or outlawed, but I do think they should be forced to compete on a landscape on which equal footing is granted to small and nimble financial institutions. So large banks shouldn't be able to get cash cheaper than small banks. Large businesses shouldn't be able to borrow money cheaper than small businesses. If we had a level playing field, if we had free competition, not just in business, but in currencies and in styles of banking, then sure, try to grow big and see. But the problem is when you have institutions that are too big to fail, that on the one hand, they're benefiting from certain kinds of deregulation, but on the other hand, also have the benefit of a federally funded safety net, you end up with a really unfair and bizarre situation. The thing that I've been calling corporatism, is this weird government corporate kind of really collusion that leads to these giant, oversized and inefficient bureaucracies.
Is there an antidote to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest antidote to that is for human beings to begin operating in ways that are apart from these giant institutions. Most of us can't even conceive anymore of how do you work without getting a job for a big corporation? How do you invest without outsourcing that investing to Wall Street? How do we take care of each other? What would a gift economy look like? What would local currency look like? How can I dedicate with my time to a public school so I don't have to work more hours to pay for a private school? And these options are really available to all of us, but they seem unthinkable because really of how much authority we've transferred to these institutions that don't really have our best interests at heart.
And it even goes, your book, Life, Inc., to our conception of ourselves as individuals and our relationship to our homes. Over the weekend, my bike was stolen, which stinks, but it happened, and it didn't happen on a particularly high-crime block, but it was tied up outside, restaurant I was going to, and when I came out, the bike was gone. And then I picked up your book later in the day to get ready for this interview, and I saw that your book starts with the story that we've talked about before of when you got mugged and what happened when you revealed the location of your mugging, which was actually basically your own home.
Right. Yeah, I'd gotten mugged outside my apartment. And, well, that's a shocking enough thing to happen. This was back during the real estate boom when prices were still going up. People were nervous about it, but it was the end of the boom. And I posted on the really nice, crunchy, lefty parents list where I lived, the street where I'd gotten mugged, thinking that this is a good thing to share the location so we can be on the lookout. And the first two emails I got back, and this was on Christmas Eve, mind you, the first two emails I got back were from homeowners who were upset that I had revealed the location where I had gotten mugged because it could negatively affect their property value.
And what does that tell us?
Well, that really launched me on the whole. I really wanted to figure this out. What it tells us is that these people cared more about the short-term asset value of their homes as property than the long-term experiential value of their homes as homes. Rather than making the neighborhood safer or figuring something out, they wanted to keep the price artificially high in case they needed to sell.
Is the housing bubble bursting bringing us down from that lofty perch?
It is in a way. I mean, the housing bubble bursting and people having invested now more in their homes than they're worth has made it impossible for them to sell. So now they need to begin to look at their homes as for what value they offer them other than the ability to sell, the ability to retire. What other value can I get from my home? I mean, and it's amazing to know that it really wasn't until the 1950s and 60s that the word home meant that little structure you live in. Until the 1950s, home meant where you're from. My home is Toledo, Ohio. No one would think of my home as that address, is that house. My home is that $360,000 structure on that over there.
My car is not what the Blue Book lists its value as.
Right.
My car is that thing I drive around in. Even like my old rickety bicycle was like a part of my skin. It wasn't worth a lot of money, but somebody's going to get $25 for it.
And it was worth more to you.
Yeah.